Next up, local comedian and storyteller Phoebe Potts is no stranger to turning the intimate details of her life into art, balancing heartbreak and humor in a way few others have managed. In her first graphic memoir, not graphic like X-rated, called Good Eggs, she shared her struggles with infertility and multiple miscarriages. Then she picked up where she left off on stage with a story of her pursuit of an adoption.
At first glance, there were a lot of choices on the adoption landscape. But when you read the fine print, you saw that rules and restrictions applied. China said that the adoptive parent had to have a body mass index no higher than a 29. I'm teetering toward 30 on that mean BMI chart in your doctor's office. I had been waiting so long for someone to say it. Never did I imagine that it was going to be the People's Republic of China.
Her one-woman show, which I loved, is named What Else? Too Fat for China. Phoebe Potts joins me now ahead of her world tour next week. Phoebe, it's wonderful to see you.
It's so great to be here.
So that bit explained why it's called Too Fat for China. And I know no one should ever tell an artist how they might have done something differently. But after having watched this, it could have been called Too Fat for China, Too Principled for Cincinnati, and almost Too Guilt-Ridden for Ethiopia. Does that not describe it more aptly, would you not say?
Yeah, or we could just call the whole thing, It Takes a Mortgage.
We're going to get to the finances at the beginning. This is a story of what one would do, what one did, well, what you did do to find love. The love of a teeny tiny baby, as you said in your piece. Tell us about it.
So it's exactly what I just said. I went on a discovery, I go on a discovery in the show to find out that it doesn't take a village to raise a child. It takes a mortgage to get a child. That my husband and I wanted to adopt, and we tried. The short story is we failed in Cincinnati, and we got a tiny little baby in Ethiopia. The longer story is that in order to do that, all of my morals and values had to curl in on themselves, and I had to make very dubious ethical decisions to just adopt a baby.
Tiny little baby, that's the expression, not teeny tiny baby. You know, one of the conundrums that you went through, and by the way, viewers know both my kids are adopted from China, so I went through the same thing too, is the whole domestic versus international adoption thing. And here's a little bit of what Phoebe had to say about it.
In international adoption, the babies have been sitting in the fruit crates for a while. But in domestic adoption, you could get a fresh baby, raw, locally sourced. Yes, I wanted more love in my story, but I also wanted more life in my story. I wanted everything. And I'm American. So I bought it.
So I bought it. For those who haven't been involved in the adoption world, flesh that out a little bit.
So in 2008, which is when we did this, you could get a baby in this country, adopt a baby, to the tune of $40,000. You don't pay a birth mother for the baby. That would be actual trafficking, but that is the amount that you have to part with. We also learned that if we were, quote unquote, open to race, we could get a black baby girl for $28,000, and a black baby boy had this bargain price of $24,000. So Obama's first year of presidency, a black baby boy is valued at 66% less than a white child through adoption. An enormous amount of money changes hands. And I think as soon as there's all this money changing hands, then that's where lots of not so great things start to happen.
But you almost had a black baby from Cincinnati, and the reason it fell apart was not about the price tag. No,
it was because this woman was incredibly unsupported by the agency.
The mother, the biological mother.
Yes, the biological mother, the birth mother. And she had to make a decision that was the best for her child.
You know, I think most people watching this show don't need me or anybody else to tell them that race and racism infect virtually everything. But you follow the money trail here. Follow it a little bit for us now, if you would.
So I'm standing at the Bole airport in Addis Ababa. We've arrived, we're gonna meet our baby. This is supposed to be this magical Hollywood moment. But I'm aware suddenly of this long line of Ned and Nancy knapsack neocolonialists, all with their tiny little babies on their arms. All these people look just like me, except they're blonde and from Dubuque, so they're not Jewish. And they all have a tiny little Ethiopian baby. And I realized the system that I'm a part of is I'm here in Ethiopia to adopt a baby, not because I'm an awesome person, not because my intentions are great. It's simply because I have a mortgage. And I got that mortgage because my folks helped me out. And my folks were able to help me out because my dad and my husband's dad came of age after the Second World War, and so got the benefits of the GI Bill. Like all their home ownership, their education, their wealth came from that era, from being GIs, white GIs, or I should say, not black GIs. And it's because of that legacy of wealth that I'm standing in Addis Ababa.
You know, Cornell Brooks was here a couple of weeks ago, former president of the National NAACP, and he wrote a piece about that very issue. And I said to him, here, I learned all this from you, but I really learned it all from you when I saw your play about the GI Bill in Gloucester a couple years ago. You know, unrelated to any specific path you took, you say in the play, I don't really want to be a mother, but a father, that would be good. Now, most of us sadly know what you meant by that, but for the few who don't, what did you mean, Phoebe, there?
I think that in America, there's this cult of American motherhood. You're a professional American mother, you're a Pam, and you're held to these insanely high standards of human resource development and caring and sheriffing and transporting, and there's tons of comedy and books already written about it, but America doesn't run on Dunkin'. America runs on the unpaid internships of mothers. That's what's making everything go. That's why you and I got fed. That's why we got educated, is because mothers came in and did the work. And it's still, I know it's gendered, but it still falls to them.
By the way, Chris, who you know well, would agree with every word. I just want you to be clear.
She's right.
Now, speaking of common themes throughout this, didn't matter where you were going or what you were doing, a constant theme throughout Too Fat for China is dread. And by the way, it's something even in my own circumstances I have lived with quite a bit. Here's a little bit of what Phoebe had to say about that never-ending dread.
So the first thing I do, before I even open my eyes, is I check the internal headlines, and I scan for the vital information that I need to start my day, namely, who I've been disappointing lately, and slights made against me. And then I know exactly how much dread I should feel before I even get dressed.
Boy, did you nail it. By the way, when there's a slight, how long do you hold it? Forever, I hope?
What do you mean?
If someone slights you,
oh yeah,
forever,
no, we don't
right?
let go.
Totally,
No.
forever. So have you conquered that? I mean, you got a kid. Have you conquered that?
The sense of
dread,
dread?
yeah.
Absolutely not.
Perfect.
No, and now I have a podcast. I have a newsroom and a podcast going all the time. Just calculating, here's where you messed up. Here's where it's never going to be right. Here's where all the worry goes. My father was a journalist like you, so I grew up going into the newsrooms after school and on weekends, and that's why it lives here, and they just constantly are tabulating. They're going to say very nice things about this, by the way.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
So in any case, I saw this 3 years ago. 3 years ago we saw this in Gloucester.
Can you believe?
So why is it back? I'm thrilled that it's back, and I really did love it. I'm not just saying it because I loved it.
You said you don't like these kind of things, but you liked mine.
That's exactly right. No, I don't like
Yeah.
these kind of things, and I loved yours is what I actually said. Why is it back?
It's back because through the help of the Gloucester stage and Christopher Griffiths, I was encouraged to get a grant from the Boston Foundation. It's called Live Arts Boston.
Oh, I didn't know it was Boston Foundation.
Yeah.
Great.
And so I got the grant because I said, I'm 51 years old. It's time to launch my performing career. And I want to bring it to Boston. I want to bring my comics in. So we're going to be projecting animations and comics to help me with the story. I want to take it to the Fringe Festival in Scotland this summer.
Fabulous. So we have to end the story where the story really began. There was that tiny little baby, and you got him. By my count, the tiny little baby is either 11 or 12.
You were correct. He's 11.
11. And how is the formerly tiny little baby?
He's, we hit the jackpot with this kid. He's a great kid. And he's not tiny. He's tall, he's strong, he's hilarious.
And how did he do with you and Jeff, actually?
What do you mean?
I mean, you say we hit the jackpot. How did he do?
Oh, I think, as the psychologist Donald Winnicott would say, we're good enough.
Phoebe, I wish you huge luck with this show. I did love it, and I hope everybody watching tonight gets to see it. It's great to see you.
Thank
Phoebe
you so
Potts.
much.
Be well.
Really appreciate
Thanks.
it.
The Too Fat for China World Tour kicks off a week from today, April 13th and 14th in Boston, then April 29th and 30th at the Mosesian Center for the Arts in Watertown, before heading off to Edinburgh, Scotland. You can find more information online at toofatforchina.com, and trust me, you do not need to be an adopter or adoptee to love every minute of this show.